Hello, my name is Mary Kay Taylor, and welcome to my Student Assessment and Lesson Plan Project presentation. So throughout this presentation, I will refer to my student as the name Ellie for protective purposes. So some background information includes first, her personal information. Ellie is 7 years old, she is the youngest of 3, she is spunky, funny, and has a great imagination. Some academic information includes that she's in the 1st grade and that she's below grade level in reading, writing, and math. She also requires a behavior and intervention plan. More specifically, she uses a positive behavior intervention and supports plan. Her strengths include that she's a good listener, she's engaged when working whole group, and that she has great comprehension skills. Some weaknesses of hers are that she struggles to follow directions, she struggles being respectful, staying on task, being honest, and being organized. And some of which these weaknesses are the reason she has a positive behavior intervention and supports plan. Here are the following assessments that I gave during this project. The first includes the letter naming fluency, or also called LNF. This measures a student's fluency in naming letters and assessing their ability to recognize letters and their letter names. So this is important because speed in naming letters denotes efficient access to foundational knowledge that is crucial in higher order processes. The next assessment that I gave is nonsense word fluency, also known as NWF. This measures a student's alphabetical principle and basic phonics by having students read several nonsense pseudo words. So reading nonsense words is the most prominent approach in assessing a student's alphabetical principle and phonological awareness. The next assessment that I gave is phoneme segmentation fluency, also known as PSF. This measures a student's phonemic awareness and assesses their fluency in segmenting words into their sound segments. Developing a student's phonemic awareness is particularly important for students who are struggling or at risk for subsequent reading difficulties. And then the last assessment that I gave Ellie is called oral reading fluency, also known as the DORF. And this measures a student's advanced phonics, word attack skills, fluent reading of text, and their reading comprehension. And this is important in helping students improve their ability to read a passage or text smoothly with appropriate prosody and strong comprehension. Here I provided you a graph and a table of her results and of her LNF, her PSF, and her NWF. There's no benchmark provided for the LNF, but she is below benchmark for her PSF and at and above benchmark for her NWF, for clear letters said and whole words read. So this is kind of my analysis of these 3 assessments. So some common error patterns that I specifically noticed in the PSF is that she rushed through, she had to self-correct herself several times, and she had trouble blending and segmenting the sounds into the correct word. Some attention difficulties in the LNF is that I only had to remind her once not to say the sound the letter makes, and then she fixed herself right after that. For behaving concerns, I had none, just that she was very enthusiastic and determined the entire time. So some noted strengths. During the LNF, she was very fluent in naming each letter, and she only missed 2 out of a total of 50 letters read. For the PSF, she did an excellent job in sounding out each individual sound in a word, and in the NWF, she does an excellent job saying the correct sounds and correctly recoding when she makes an error. I was very impressed with her in the NWF. Some other variables to consider was that I had to split up the probes into two different time segments. So the first half I gave the LNF and the PSF, and then the second half I gave the NWF and the DORF. So here are her results of the DORF assessment of her words correct, her accuracy, her retell, and her retell quality. And as you can see from the table and the graph, she is well below benchmark in both her words correct and accuracy, but she is above benchmark for her retell and her retell quality. During the DORF, some common error patterns that I noticed is that she struggled to decode almost every word. She had to replace the correct words with other words she thought it was at times, which isn't always a bad thing, but again, they count as wrong. So some attention difficulties I noticed is that she struggled to stay on track with where she was in the story. So she would jump from word to word or a different sentence. She was all over the place. Behavior concerns was that she expressed that she did not feel like she knew any of the words and began to get frustrated. But some noted strengths that I saw were that although her reading fluency and decoding skills are not up to par, her comprehension is unmatched. And she only read over a little over a sentence and was able to tell me every detail and attempt to make predictions as to what might happen next in the story, which I found very promising. So now in the next part, I'm going to tell you about the areas targeted for improvement. And the two areas I chose are fluency and phonemic awareness. So the reason that I picked fluency as my first target area is because she continuously had to stop and decode each word and go back several times and reread words or phrases. So the strategy that I specifically chose are repeated readings. I chose this strategy because this will be able to help Ellie read more rapidly, smoothly, effortlessly, and automatically. So what takes place during this strategy? So it consists of the student reading a grade level appropriate passage aloud at least 3 times, and the passage should be about 50 to 200 words in length. And it should be administered with an adult, one-on-one, so that the adult may aid the student if help is needed on a word or its meaning. So the study that I chose to kind of back up my strategy included a study that took place over a 10-week period and occurred 3 times a week for 20 minutes with each student. It consisted of 4 students labeled as special ed, and by the end of the study, at least 3 out of the 4 students' fluency improved, which I find very effective. So a good way to progress monitor Ellie during this time would be to determine a baseline, work one-on-one with her, and take notes on her performance each meeting, and to reassess and evaluate her over a specified period of time. Again, the second area that I chose to target for improvement is her phonemic awareness. And this is because she repeatedly has to sound out and resound out words when she reads. She struggles blending sounds together to pronounce the correct word, and that she struggles to recognize the similarities and differences between sounds. So the strategy that I chose is phoneme manipulation cards. And I chose this strategy because I want to help Ellie improve in her segmenting, blending, and recognizing similarities and differences between sounds. So what is the benefit of this strategy? It is helpful in predicting other reading struggles for children learning to read, and it benefits reading outcomes and their knowledge of letter names and word identification. And the study that I chose to back up this strategy had investigated the effects of onset rhyme and phonics-based intervention on word reading behaviors, and they conducted a research on 4 first grade students, which I thought was great because Ellie's in the first grade. And participants' word reading performance on instructed words improved after intervention was their results. So a good way to progress monitor Ellie again is to, work one-on-one with her, encourage her to practice on her own even after working one-on-one with her. Again, take notes of her progress and her struggles, and again, reassess and evaluate over a specified period of time. So for my lesson plan, I decided to focus on my target area of fluency and again on repeated reading as the strategy. And here is my entire step-by-step lesson plan, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just kind of give you the gist of it. So before the lesson, I'll have to pull each student out one-on-one into a quiet room where I will introduce repeated readings by first playing a recording of a fluent reader and a non-fluent reader and asking them which one they think is the better reader. And then I will the teacher or I will demonstrate what a repeated reading is and have the student be the one to time the teacher, kind of giving them a way to feel in charge and kind of make it fun. So after you demonstrate all of this, you will let them do it, and after that, you will basically have them again do the repeated reading. And okay, so for my lesson plan, I decided to focus on the target area of fluency and on specifically the strategy repeated readings. So I'm just kind of going to give you a general idea of what is going to go on during this lesson plan. So before the lesson, you are going to reserve a quiet room for you and the student to be one-on-one. You're going to get the materials ready. You're going to bring the student in. You're going to kind of just introduce the idea of fluency and what a good fluent reader sounds like. And then you're kind of going to go over, maybe if the student does have a previous DORF assessment, maybe go over their scores with them. And then introduce what repeated readings are to the student and explain the directions of repeated readings. So during the lesson, you're going to further introduce the repeated reading by modeling what a repeated reading looks like with the student. And the student's going to be the one to administer it. And you're going to do it at least twice for 30 seconds. Each time with emphasis on improving the second time through to kind of show the student the purpose of a repeated reading. And after this, after you demonstrate it, you're going to ask the student if they have any questions. And then after the lesson, you're going to let the student do it on their own, while of course you are timing them and taking notes of their progress and are there to help them if they need help on a word or meaning. And then by the end, you can, or in between, you can check on them, check in, see how they're doing, ask what they like, what they don't like. And then once they are done, just have them send the next student in. So that's kind of my lesson plan. So in conclusion, 2 aspects I found important moving forward regarding curriculum-based measurements is that first, a curriculum-based measurements crucialness in determining where each individual student is at academically. That's the first thing that I found super important. It's just, it kind of sets the tone, sets the base, and the standard. And what I found important about them is how they are face-to-face, and how being face-to-face tells you so much more than what paper can tell you. So those are the 2 things that I learned and found important about curriculum-based measurements. All right, and here are my works cited. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you again for listening and watching. Bye!